when I heard the things you said, the agenda for this session, I was like, are you sure I don't need this too? Because I think I need this. But I'm really happy to be here. So I graduated with a bachelor's in accounting from Covenant University. If there are people in the house, say hello in the comments. But before that, like, it was drama. So when I was actually in GS3, there was this exam we used to take to find out whether you are going to the sciences or the arts. It was from government. And me, I was selectively answering all the science questions. Like, so they send me there. Like, I'm my mother's last born. She needs a medical doctor. So I wanted to fulfill that for her. And all for the results come out, and I saw myself posted to commercial class. I was like, what? I mean, like, you know what? If they ask you, like, are you empathetic? If you see somebody by the roadside, those are not the questions, but just those kind of say that they should send me to science class. They didn't. And I went to the counselor's office. I was like, no, that's not where I'm supposed to be. Take me to science. And they did. And at that point, like, I was just feeling so greatly dissatisfied. Like, I felt like I was not supposed to be there. Then I went back on another round of drama, and I was like, take me back to commercial class. I'm sure my counselor was like, this girl is confused. So that went, I saw myself move from a very average student, around like 60%, to actually becoming like one of the very top 3. I think I even took first ones, I can't remember, but yeah. And then it was time to go to university. And my father asked me, Rhoda, what do you want to study? I said, I don't know. I did not know what I wanted to study. So based on being in commercial class, my options were business admin, economics, or accounting. And he now told me I should go for a 3 days fast. I'm like, I went. My people, I came back, I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear one thing. And then my father asked me, oh yeah, well, what do you want to do? And I just said, okay, accounting. And that's how I found myself there. So even if I didn't hear anything, maybe the fast helps, because I actually do like the fact that I'm in accounting. And then it has just been a whole lot from there. And I've now become a chartered accountant. Recently got inducted, and yeah, I am enjoying it so far. And outside of work, just so that I don't think I used to read my book every time, I like to go out a lot, and I like to hang out a lot with my friends and watch K-drama. So nice being here.
That's really interesting. Like, I can even imagine going to FAD because of you want to choose the area of expert. That's quite weird. Wow. I don't think I had to think about mine that much. I just woke up and somebody told me, people, being an accountant will fit you. And that's how I found myself in accounting. It will fit me. And I like the suits they wear. I like looking corporate. I like seeing people pressing their laptop. And I think that's what even made me choose accounting. So over to you, Mr. Samson. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you opted for accounting. Why accounting? There was other questions, right?
All right. Just checking. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So nice to meet you, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Samson Richard, as you already read it by. I work in finance. Why did I choose accounting? So my story is a little bit similar to Rhoda's, apart from the fast, but it was a bit similar. So growing up, I used to be like the smart kid in the class, right? And you know how it used to be back then. If you were smart, it was like you had to be a science student, right? My mom wanted me to be a science student. Everybody wanted me to be a science student. Even in school, right? My teachers, everybody wanted me to be a science student because everybody thought I would make an amazing doctor, right? Except me. So one thing about me, like for a very long time, I used to be very stubborn and rebellious. So the only reason why I did accounting was because every other person wanted me to do sciences. So it was like, if all of you want me to do this thing, then I'm definitely not going to do it. All right. So I started doing accounting. I joined commercial class as a result. And it made a lot more sense to me. So I'm a numbers person. So I'm not a crammer, right? So I find it very difficult to cram stuff. So I always struggled with like science stuff because it didn't make any sense to me, right? But like, I'm no offense to science students, right? But numbers made a lot more sense to me. So I think while in secondary school, just trying to figure all of that out. And then I had an uncle that was an accountant, right? At the time I was working for Unilever, and he always used to come with like all their goodies, close up, all the things that Unilever used to make that year. Bring everything anytime he's coming with time. Like, this man will have money. Like, accountant is to have money. So I took it a lot more seriously, right? And then I started accounting, finished from school, went to accounting, finished from OAU, Obafemi Awolowo University, and it's been a very good experience since then. Since then, I've gone ahead to become a chartered accountant with ICANN, affiliate chartered accountant with ACCA. And then I've held different roles, rather, accounting, finance related roles, from audits, and then I worked a bit in Total, and then I'm currently working in IHS Stars as a financial planning and analysis manager. And I know the title confuses a lot of people when you are just starting out with accounting, right?
It does.
Yes. So I just like to explain it by saying that I help the company make smart financial decisions. Right. So that's basically who I am. That's what I do. And outside of work, I like to hang out with people. I like to escape from work. So like when I'm outside of work, I'm outside of work. I like to watch a lot of movies. I like K-drama also. So nice to
Wow.
mention.
That's nice.
In the house.
Yes, I
I don't
like
know.
to do all of that and then basically speak to people as well. So yeah, nice to meet you. Nice to be here.
Wow, that's really interesting. I think, I don't know, but is it just me? But I think our relations somehow, in a way, they play a role to the career we end up studying. Because I know my aunt literally told me, "Favor, you make a good accountant," and I did not even think about it 2 times. I'm like, no. If she's the one saying it, I think I just have to study accounting. Thank you very much, Mr. Richard. And there was something you also mentioned. You said you worked in audit, you said you worked in different things, and now you're now a financial planning and analysis manager. What does this suggest? This just simply suggests that as an accountant, you're not limited to just one thing. You can actually explore.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to get to a point during this conversation where he gets to buttress on this, but I just wanted to stick with you. An accountant is not limited to balance sheets only. You're not limited to what you're being taught in school, because I can see so many young graduates are on this call today. So you're not limited to manual tax computation, or they'll just tell you in school that, oh, branches of accounting, taxation, audit, management accounting. There are a whole lot of things going on in the accounting space, and you can actually key into one of these areas and build yourself as an expert in this area. So this leads me to the second question we have here. Is one of the participants actually asked it. So the question is, so what's your view about this perception that accounting is monotonous? You know, people say, oh, as an accountant, you keep doing the same thing every day. I don't know the accounting they are doing, but what do you think about this? And can you elaborate on factors or aspect of accounting which may contribute to this perception? And lastly, there are 3 questions, right? Do you think that there are also elements in accounting or areas in accounting that are not monotonous? I don't know if you understand the question, but I could just rephrase or just say it again.
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right, so over to you, Richard, and then Rhoda will just throw more light on it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just going to be as honest as possible, right? Yeah, the perception can be right? It can be very correct sometimes, but then let me just speak on that a little bit. So accounting is quite wide, right? So when we think accounting, I don't want you to be limited to be thinking like just double entry, bookkeeping, and all of those kind of stuff, right? Accounting is wide, right? It goes from regular financial reporting to financial planning, investment banking. There are like a whole lot of things you can do, right, as an accountant. So I wouldn't say that accounting as a whole can be monotonous, right? But then there are like specific parts in accounting that can be very monotonous, and that is also subject to individual preferences. Okay. So for me, for example, when I finished uni, I wanted to do audit, right? And it wasn't really like I knew any better. It was just like audit was the obvious choice, right? So I did like a year in audit, and I did it. Again, like I said, personal preferences. There were nice parts of doing audit, right? There was the staying in hotel, eating free food. I loved that part, right? But the actual part, the actual accounting, like the core accounting, it was a bit unexciting for me. And I think it's because of my kind of personality. I like to be able to do different stuff. I like the fluidity, right? But I couldn't really get that. And it was also a bit surprising because prior to that, I thought I really liked accounting, right? Like core accounting, I thought I really enjoyed it. But when I started to do like actual accounting, it was just like, is this what I'll be doing for the rest of my life? All right. But yeah, after a while, I started to think of doing something else, and then I branched into more finance than accounting, right? And maybe we'll get to speak on that a little bit more. There can be a little bit of difference between finance and accounting. And FP&A, for example, which is why I do financial planning, is the way I like to put it. While core accounting will be looking at a lot of past experiences, what have happened in the past, what I do is more forward-looking, right? So what's going to happen, which is very interesting because nobody really knows what's going to happen. So you have to think through a whole lot of things, consider a whole lot of assumptions, scenarios to be able to arrive at a forecasted position, right? Which every other person is going to rely on, right? Because today, if I do a forecast now today, my company is listed, the company I work for is listed on the New York Stock Exchange, right? People in the UK are going to rely, people in the US are going to rely on the forecast that I provide, right? So it's a whole lot of responsibility, but it's also very, very exciting, right? And you can also find that brand of excitement with audit, right? Again, like I like to say, it's all about personal preferences. What keeps you going? What do you find exciting? So yes, there are parts of accounting that can be monotonous, the normal repetitive task, the financial reporting, the fact that it is very rule-based and constricting and all of that, right? But as it starts to expand, start to work on new scenarios, work on expansive projects, focus on stuff like advisory, focus on stuff like strategy, planning, you start to engage a lot more of technology and automation that takes away the repetitive part so that you're able to focus on more actual stuff, right? Actual decision making. As you do that, you find that accounting can actually be a lot more interesting than you think, right? It's quite interesting. It's very diverse. You get to work on a lot of stuff. So don't be limited to the thinking that it has to be just like bookkeeping, debit and credit, right?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Samson. I think that's really the truth, right? So I just want to hear from you, Rhoda. I know you've had a couple of different experiences from working in KPMG, as she alluded, and you've been doing financial. So do you think accounting is monotonous? And if yes, if you think so, why? But if not, can you just like explain? Do you think it's monotonous? Do you think it's something that when somebody gets into, the person keeps doing the things they are doing like every day without having any room for growth or improvement? I just want to hear from you, Rhoda.
Okay, so something has already like he connected something to my brain and took everything from my mouth. But there's not a lot. But what I would say is that maybe I should just share like my experience and how I kind of navigated that path. So when I was in school, I was supposed to do like a 1 month, sorry, a SciWest was 1 unit, but yeah. So I said I applied to KPMG. I didn't really have much options. So KPMG was it. And I wanted to try audits. I had a couple of options in accounting I really wanted to try. So I started with audits. And when I did it, I enjoyed working in a big four. Like you said, the food, the people, the community, it's amazing. But I realized I didn't enjoy audit itself because it didn't fit my personality. Like I was sitting out for too long. I didn't really enjoy it. Some people love audits. I have a friend that loves it, right? So a lot of things should be taken into consideration. But then I realized I wanted to try something else. Another thing on my list was management consulting, was finance, I didn't plan for investment banking. I've heard a lot about it and I was not interested. But some people, they like it. I don't think I met everybody that loves investment banking, but yeah, there are a lot of opportunities there. So I decided to try more of finance roles and I wanted to try working in a startup. So I went to a startup and finance differs based on the organization you are in, right? I mean, the principles are similar. What you learned in school is great, but when you actually come out, it depends on the kind of organization you work in. If you're working in a smaller company, if you're working in like a startup or a small business, you most likely find yourself doing more manual things and more repetitive things. And that's great for you to understand the basics, understand what you were taught in school. But I don't think you should stay there, right? It's good for you to really get a much wider picture. The basics are very important because when automation comes in, it begins to take away those basic things. And if you don't understand the basics, it kind of makes things a bit more difficult for you to make decisions because you don't understand how the data is flowing. But before, let me not get a bit too technical. But I didn't really enjoy some of the autonomous things I was doing. And so accounting itself sometimes can be autonomous, but it depends on the organization. It depends on where you are, and it depends on the function also. So currently I'm working at Microsoft and I work as a financial analyst, and I'm currently doing a rotation program where I change roles every 6 months. And I believe that's really helpful, especially when you don't know where you want to focus on. And I realized that there are different aspects to finance, and there are different roles, there are different ways that even different finance roles operate very differently, right? So while some may be very autonomous, a lot comes in when it has to do with like decision making, when it has to do with strategy, it has to do with people. It then brings in a very different flavor into it from what you knew before. So even though that you don't like repetitive things, there is definitely a whole lot you can do in accounting as a whole. And it's not just debit and credit, like you said. There is a whole lot more. We're talking about accounting in general. So yeah.
I think I really like that idea. And I think that's the notion people have to start understanding as they get into school, as they fill in their JAMB form, as they sign out, write their final exams in school. They need to understand that accounting is no longer, I don't know how baby boomer generation X, I don't know what accounting meant to them, but in this current 21st century, accounting is a lot more diverse. And I love the way you were just able to like tell us your story, especially when you mentioned that accounting and finance is actually different based on the organization. So the way finance would flow, the way people would account for it in a startup, when you get into an oil and gas company, you just discover that there are two parallel, like there are two different things. And that is why if you're on this call, I want you to start thinking ahead. Think ahead like a game of chess. Don't just limit yourself to the normal thing we do in school. The normal thing, like, it's so funny that when you come out of school, it's not like as though they are totally different, but there's a lot discrepancy between what you learn in school and what you do, or how the field actually is, right? So thank you so much, Rhoda, for that contribution. So I have another question. Please feel free to just take water because we did a lot of question and answer. I have water close to me, so at some point I may just stop to take water. And our audience, please feel free to have water with you too. And just in case you have question, Linda Ume is on the chat and she'll just be taking note of your question. So another question we have here, and this question is specifically for Mr. Samson. So somebody went through your LinkedIn profile and said, oh, so sir, you've been, based on what we have on your LinkedIn profile, you've been an accountant since 2018. And, we have 2018, there's 2019, there's 2020, 2021. And a lot of things have happened from the first day you took your job as probably an auditor to this time. So the person is curious and is saying, can you like share insights into the notable developments that have occurred in the accounting space from then till now? For example, when I was still a child, I know my auntie would always clamor, oh, peach tree. And I didn't know, I was like, okay, peach tree has to be something related to accounting. But now, I don't think there is a peach tree. I think it has evolved to becoming a sage cloud, a sage online. So I'd just like to hear from your own perspective, Mr. Samson, which change did you witness along the lines of your career trajectory as an accountant? If it's something you can share with us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. So yes, I started working in late 2017, 2018. So I'm going to speak from like my own experiences rather than general trends that have happened. All right. So first thing, when I first started working, I had to work with a lot of paper. Right. So, like in uni when they teach you accounting, at least for me, right, and maybe in secondary school, you do like debit credit on paper, like in a book, T-square and all of that. I actually used like a paper spreadsheet at some point, right? Yeah, so it was not a fun experience, all right? But prior to that, right, you had said something on Peachtree. when I was in uni, the only accounting software that I ever got to try was Peachtree, right? Which in retrospect didn't make any sense because nobody uses Peachtree in real life, right? So I got out of uni, got into like real life, and there's no Peachtree here. All of a sudden, everybody's talking about Excel. I never used Microsoft Excel in school. Never. I never used it, right? So I started using Excel when I started working because I wanted to see what the force was about, right? And I started working with Excel a lot. And I mean, right, I had to learn a whole lot, right? From your normal basic functions to understanding how Excel actually works, and to the point where now I'm training other people, right? So it's been like a whole growth in that process. And I always advise, and maybe I'm biased because I train Excel, right? But I always advise everyone, I don't know how you're going to survive without like Excel knowledge. As you start to advance, you start to get to use other tools. There are a lot of cloud-based accounting softwares. Maybe like you said, the Sage, QuickBooks. There are also like industry-specific accounting software. I use OneStream in my company. Some company uses Dynamic AX. Some people use SAP. Some people use different things, right? So there are a lot of all of that. But at the end of the day, Excel is always like the unifier, right? Everybody uses Excel no matter how much of the advanced stuff they get to use, right? And that's where you get to, Rhoda was saying something earlier, that when automation comes, it takes away the monotonous task, right? But if you do not actually understand how those monotonous tasks work on their own, you will not be able to follow with the automation, or you will not be able to make the output of that. You'll not be able to use the output of that automation to make smart decisions or contribute effectively, right? So I would say that I've been able to walk through that, moving from the paper this in spreadsheet to like an Excel spreadsheet, and using that to derive insights into financial information. There's also been a little bit of data analysis in there. So as time also goes on, you start to work with a lot of data, right? And because of that, you will need more specialized tools to handle that, to create reports, data visualizations. That's where the likes of Power BI comes in, right? Or Tableau. You start to do a lot of, as time goes on, right, it becomes a little bit more difficult to separate between financial accounting and financial data analysis, right? So those are stuff you are going to get to work with a lot, okay? And there are experiences that I've also seen. I think another thing to also note is, so in 2020, everybody experienced COVID, right? Prior to that, I'd never worked outside of the office. In fact, my role that time when COVID hit, I was working in Total. I had a desktop, right? I had a desktop that I was using, very fine desktop, by the way. And I loved it because it meant that I couldn't carry work home, right? But now when COVID
Sleep, I'll
happened,
wake up with work.
yeah, exactly. You had to go to like you had to start working remotely because you had to work from home. And working remotely, working from home now opens you up to a whole lot of things. You have to now start thinking of collaboration, thinking of cloud-based, like for example, you're using Excel on your own before. Now you have to start thinking about how to use Excel with other people using the same file with you at the same time, right? So those are a lot of things that you will say that has changed in terms of like accounting and my own experience. From a general or a broader perspective, you start looking at stuff like sustainability accounting, right? So companies now start to think next level. Everybody wants to be able to connect to sustainability processes. You want to be able to ensure that your country or your company rather is contributing to the the long life, as it were, of the universe, right? And as that happens, you need to also start to report that publicly. That's where accounting also comes in, because there's a shift of in the focus from reporting financials to reporting everything that is going on about the company, which includes your CSR, your sustainability, all of that, right? So those are things that are new. or that I got to experience as I started to proceed now with time going. I think last one, which I'll just speak briefly on because of time, is there are new advancements in technology also. There's cryptocurrency, there's all of that mixed fiat currencies I don't want to go into. Right. There's the advancement of AI, right? As recently as when ChatGPT is up, right? You can do like you can do different things that you would not naturally have been able to do normally. Like you want to write reports. It's crazy how you just put like, oh, let me write a report on something, and then this thing just comes with this full blown. Obviously, you're going to like have to do it. The way I like to see it is like you have a personal assistant, right? So it's like if I have someone that is working with me and I have to put something out and then it brings something, I don't just take the whole thing and then go and present. Like you take it and then I still do a lot of work on it, right? So there have been a lot of advancements. I think what's good to note is that as they will continue happening, so you have to first of all embrace them. So you can't come with like this idea that, oh, AI is coming, it's going to replace me, I'll not work again, that kind of thing, right? You have to embrace them. You have to be adaptable. You have to learn to work with all of these new technologies. You have to understand that they are not coming to chase you away. They are coming to help your work better so that you can actually leave the monotonous work and focus on actual decision making, which is what contributes to the development of the company, right? I'll stop here because I think I'm talking too much and I like talking a lot. Thank you.
No, you're not. You're not. You're making a whole lot of sense. You're making a whole lot of sense because, just like you said, we just have to like embrace accounting and embrace the changes that come with it. I remember I was writing my ICANN exam sometime in, I think November diet or just sometime sometime like I think last year. And one of the questions I saw in my exam was accounting for crypto, and I'm like, I don't get it. How did we get here? I thought crypto was just something they introduced yesterday. Why am I seeing in ICANN syllabus and in an ICANN exam accounting for crypto? This just shows that, like you said, accounting is changing and we can no longer confine ourselves to things that are monotonous, right? We just need to keep learning things. Very soon, there will be financial statement for blockchain, currency, blockchain transactions. You would have to report carbon emissions and all those things.
Yeah.
So I think if you're on this call, what you should be thinking prospectively, because I can no longer think retrospectively, right? You should be thinking about the future and making decisions now to learn skills that would help you still remain relevant in the future. It's amazing how it's almost 12 and I'm like, we've not even started the session. How did we get here? But I hope we've been listening. So I just want you to just use the chat box. If you know you're on this call and you have been paying attention, I want you to just drop something you've learned so that we are sure that we're not just talking to ourselves, we're sure that you're following. So I don't want to call your names, but Thompson, Deborah, Tochukwu, I can see you. Okay, she will say it's an interesting session so far. Okay, please just drop something you've learned so that we're sure that you're following. Deborah says she's learning about how to work with new technologies. All right, thank you so much for replying. So another questions we'll have, we're answering your questions. So if we end up stretching the time, just know that it's the question you gave us, that is what we're trying to answer. And we're trying to provide clarity to all the seemingly confused area you're having as an accountant. So another question, and this question is for both Rhoda and Mr. Samson. So the question is, reflecting on your career journey as a finance professional and accountant, can you share 3 personal strategies that significantly contributed to your career advancement? 3 personal strategy that has significantly contributed to your career advancement. So I'll start with Rhoda, then after which we'll take Mr. Samson. So over to you, Rhoda.
Okay. All right, that's a very interesting question. So I think the first one would be living like I don't have a second option or acting like I don't have a second option. So when I look at like my connects, it's not as strong as I want it to be. My mom owns a school. My father then was working with was a civil servant. Not the one we connect, and it was in another state, Port Harcourt. I'm not moving to, I wasn't interested. Nothing wrong with Port Harcourt, but Then my siblings, my brother was a COO at a startup, right? And I mean, it's a startup. Nothing wrong with startup, but I wanted to try a big four. And I didn't have Connect there. So I just had one option, which was to apply and make sure my application was the best because I must get in. I didn't have any other good options for me. And even coming out of school, that was the same perspective I had. And I think that is one that has really helped me, acting like I had no other option. It has made me apply for things I never thought I was qualified for. This has also increased my number of rejections, but still has given me opportunities that I never imagined. So that's the very first one. Second one would be to take on challenges, right? So when I was in school, I was my penultimate year and my final year were very, very hard times because I was taking on so much, right? And it was then I really knew that I had tenacity and capacity to handle more than I thought. And I would never have known if I had just been so focused on my academics. And my GPA never went down. My GPA was always improving every semester. And eventually I got a 5 point in my last semester, which was sad because that was my goal in my 100 level. When I said it did not work out, I wanted to go and try other things, right? So when I was a student, they wanted to get an accounting intern for our alumni association. And a lot of people were like, no, they want to focus on their school, they want to focus on their work. And I was like, I need to find a way to be competitive by the time I come out of school because all of us will have bachelors. Quite a number of us will have either a first class or a 2-1. So what will make me stand out? I need to start having like an employment. And then I was also like a very active service union member in my church. I was a service union leader. And then I was also having like a job and then trying to do school again. So it was a whole lot. But like I would say, take on challenges. Don't say no when an opportunity comes your way. Give it a shot. I mean, like, especially if it's in line with what your goal is. I think that's the second strategy that has helped me. And also, what should I say is the third one? Because I mean, they're quite a number. I think the third one would be, I'm not being religious, but I'll say prayer because there are like 1,001 ways your life can go, right? There are so many opportunities you can take up and that would direct because of your life. And you don't know which one is the right one. I mean, one day, something else may have been better than where I am, but that does not mean that that's where God wants me to be, right? So I think another thing that will help you really is just praying and planning. Like, don't just pray and leave your life to chance. Plan your life, be strategic. Where do you see yourself in the next few years? And what steps do you have to take in order to accelerate that, right? So I think that's one thing I really try to do often. I try to be very strategic and see where do I want to be and how do I see myself going there? And also present it to God. Like, if you are lacking strength, ask him and he will give it to you. So, but yeah, I think those are the top 3 things that have really helped me.
Well, thank you so much, Rhoda. I like that you're being real because you don't get this level of realness from everybody. Everybody's trying to form that they're self-made, but you just explained it, and it's just so good to know that you actually understood your battles from the beginning, so that you're not in a point where you actually understood what you wanted right from the beginning, which is really a good thing. Yeah. So over to you, Mr. Richard. We'd just like to hear yours in 3 simple words. Or 3 simple sentences. I don't know if you can still hear me.
Yeah, I can. Sorry, I'm not really good in like short sentences, but I'll go ahead, right? So what 3 things would I say have been really important? I think Rhoda has spoken on some things that I think are very important. God, and planning, right? Not leaving anything to chance. Just to add to that, I think personal development, continuous learning is a big deal for me, right? So my first, I've been working for how many years now? 6 years. My first 3 years, I didn't have any savings, right? Because I was using all my money for like professional certifications, skills. I was channeling all my funds to that. And I know how there's this like, oh, save a percentage of your money every time. But like, I think for me, and again, I'm not your financial advisor, but I think for me, right, personally, I feel like the early stage of your life, of your career should be focused at building employable skills, right? So all of what you get that should be like your primary focus. You're going to what? You're going to be working for like how many years? Maybe 30 years in your life. There's time for you to continue saving, right? But like that early period of your career, focus on building employable skills. So if you have to take professional certification, if you have to take up online courses, anything that is going to, again, in line with the plan that you have already set, right? So that's one thing that was really, really vital for me. So I got to do a lot of certification, ICANN, ACCA. I mean, at some point, that's tell myself like, okay, you tried, go and do that things, right? So I think that's the first thing. The second thing, peer networking or peer mentoring, right? So a lot of times, right, when you're starting, you like to think of networking and mentoring as a very awkward process. Like, so when I started, I mentioned one time that I had an uncle that was an accountant in level and stuff. I was trying to connect, come and show me the way, what do I do? I'm a young accountant, all of that stuff, right? But I think a lot of times, and I didn't really get that at the time, right? I mean, and I don't blame him, right? Now I'm an uncle and I know how difficult it is, right? But what I'm trying to say is a lot of time it puts a lot of focus on the people that are already like, oh, these guys that have been in the industry for 10 years, I need them to mentor me. And then many of the times we lose focus of the people that are actually around us, that are peers, right? So for me, one thing that really helped me is I had a lot of upwardly mobile peers, right, that was able to connect with and learn from. So I have guys that are working in audit, I have guys that are working in IB, investment banking, different fields in accounting, and I was always able to like tap and learn from them. Oh, what are you guys doing? What's the new stuff? What are you guys working on? So that peer mentoring, it's a big deal. And I think that's one thing that really, really, really helped me. Like as I advanced in my career. What other thing? So I think the last thing I'll mention is taking initiative, right? So to a very large extent, I think my career has been like very, very, I don't want to say it's been fast because I've had to try different things, right? But one thing that had always stuck out for me and that made me like be able to do all I've been able to do is because of like taking initiatives. So reading, studying, building skills, all of that don't automatically promote you or don't automatically take you to the next stage. Is how you're able to take advantage of opportunities. And opportunities will come. They will always come. But are you already prepared for it? Because by the time the opportunity gets to you, it's not going to give you time, right? Like by the time you're going to get a job opportunity that would require you to know how to use Excel or know how to use Power BI or know how to use SQL, you're not going to be able to have the time within that period to quickly learn it. So you have to have built that capacity to prepare you for that period, right? So when that period is coming, you're able to take initiative. And one thing I like to tell people is that nothing really gets handed over to you, right? So whatever you want to get done, you have to like take it. You have to show that you are capable of taking up those responsibilities, right? Especially in this world. So for me, my career journey at some point, right? My manager left the organization with like all this japa happening that time, right? And that was an opportunity that was waiting for me to take up, right? To see if I was able to fill up that space, right? And I did, right? But if I wasn't already prepared to take up that opportunity, it will just pass and then someone else will just take it, right? And nothing is going to happen. Do you understand what I'm saying? So at each point in time, whenever there's an opportunity to do something, like Nike will say, just do it and take the opportunity, right? So yeah, and lastly, I think one thing that really, really works with me is like my personal philosophy. What's worth doing at all is worth doing well. So if you are going to say that this is what you want to do, accounting is what you want to do, just stick to it and give it all that you have. Like at the end of the day, if for anything, you know that you tried all of you could, right? All that you could. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Wow. Well, my notes are full already because I don't know why I'm organizing this. I really wish I was just a participant really listening because what you shared as like is really very insightful because you're talking about opportunities and if you don't get to like work on yourself before this opportunity come, is going to be so disastrous, because when you get to that, your answered prayers, you may not be able to function effectively. So thank you very much. And you also mentioned about whatever is what's doing is what's doing well. And I think that is what you should take if you're listening to this call, because you may not start out your career as an accountant or a financial person in a big firm. So it might just be regular, oh, just do this thing, just do it. But you don't know that the universe is actually watching you. Nature is watching you. People around you, they are watching you, they are watching to see how you do that little task, right? So just like Mr. Samson said, what is worth doing is worth doing well. Thank you so much for that point. So yes, so we have a couple of questions. So another question for our panelists is on this. I think we'll have to take this question last, but I'll skip this particular question. And I just want you, Mr. Samson and Miss Rhoda, to explain this. You know, on this call, you've been using some terms interchangeably. You've been using accountant, you've been using investment banking, you've been using finance. And the truth is that, for me personally, I did not know anything about IB until I left school or towards my final year. It was more like a course, because even the guys in banking and finance, they were not, I don't know if it's my school, but they were not very clear as to what investment banking was. Then coming out of school, I started hearing about corporate finance. I started hearing about, oh, there is corporate finance, there is strategy and all that. But I just want you to just give a clear, I'll just read it out the way I have it in my notepad here. So can you like provide insight into the interconnectedness, that's the relationship between accounting, core accounting, finance, and investment banking? And one of our participants actually asked this question. So over to you, Rhoda, and then we take Samson. So the interconnectedness between accounting, finance, are they the same things? What makes accounting different from finance? If they are related, what's the relationship like? So over to you, Rhoda.
All right, thank you. So that question is one of those questions I like. Okay. So accounting is, think about what you learned in school, right? Reconciliation of like, like creating your financial statement, all of that, group accounts, all those taxation, all of that auditing. When it comes to finance, like Samson previously said, is more of leveraging. So you said it's forward looking, right? So you are leveraging that information, that accounting information, in order to make like financial decisions, right, for the future. So we are looking more into how can we use this data from accounting, so that balance sheet, revenue, cost, how can we run maybe like analysis, how can we evaluate that to actually make decisions? So how much should we do something, or how little should we, maybe where should our next market be, how should we scale, whether growth opportunities or cost reduction. Basically you're using the accounting, that financial statement, all of that information to run analysis for the future, right? So you're not looking backwards. Then when it comes to investment banking has to do more with like, you're focusing more on how to like raise capital. I haven't had personal experience in investment banking, right? But more of how to like raise capital for companies, right? So it's more of looking at, it's related, but they are still very different and require different skills overall. But I mean, start having your bachelor's in accounting is a good start, or in economics or any other business or management course, or even none, because there are people who had no accounting background and they come in and they are still thriving either way. So the point is that you see how accounting and finance relate, and then investment banking has to do more with capital, and basically fundraising for that company or that organization to achieve their strategic goals, right? But hopefully maybe Samson from his experience can shed more light on IB. But I think overall, minus even the skills, minus the accounting, the technical aspect and all of that, top soft skills are the adaptability, willingness to learn, because like I said, finance differs in various organizations. A company is doing something one way does not mean that another company is doing something another way, right? So it's going to be very different. But at the center of it, can you learn? Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to adapt? Are you willing to like open your mind to new things, right? So irrespective of whichever field you want to find yourself, right, you're at a good start, and with the right openness, you can actually do better. And obviously learning is not, everything is not openness, so you gotta upskill. But yeah, over to you, Samson.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, you started it really, really well. The three of them are they are interconnected, but then they're also different. So as such, you require like different skills for each. But then great first step is that you are studying accounting or economics or banking or whichever one you are doing, or you've already done, right? And then you are taking certifications. But I think to speak more on how different they are, so when you're talking financial reporting or accounting rather, that's looking at financial reporting, past events, reporting it to the public, right? And that will go from like your normal bookkeeping to financial reporting to stuff like I mentioned earlier, like sustainability reporting, CSR, all of that. And then you start to look at your normal accounting, so your payables, receivables, all those extra stuff, working capital management, all of that, right? And then there's also a focus on in accounting, there's also a focus on compliance, and not just financial compliance, but also like internal controls. So ensuring that the financial controls within the organization are set up in a way that it protects the organization from any type of financial risk, right? Whether internally, externally, whichever one it will be, right? So you have that as an aspect of financial accounting. That's accounting. Now, because I work in finance, I like to think finance is a lot more broad, right? So there is, first of all, I feel like finance has a lot of connection with everything, okay? So first of all, there's finance on its own, which not only just looks at like past information, but also does forward looking. So there's a bit of finance that focuses on past information, which is where you have your management reporting. Now, with like your management reporting, you are not just trying to provide accurate financial reports for the sake of doing that, right? You are trying to take those information that have been provided already, that maybe your accountant has already done, and then derive insights from those information for your management to make decisions. So what do I mean? You say, okay, based on the information that we had, this was what happened, this was what went well, this is what didn't go well, this is what we had forecasted would happen. But then there's something called variance analysis, where you're saying that we had said that this will happen, right? We said we were going to sell 500 units of our product, but we ended up selling 300. So what happened? Why did we do less? So you do a lot of analysis. You are providing insight, right, as a finance person, to be able to let management know that, oh, there was a shortfall in labor, people don't, maybe some resources are not available, or maybe it's not even a company thing, right? Maybe something is happening in the industry that is reducing people's purchasing power. That's why they are not, which one can we do? What can we fix? What can we not fix? Will this variance happen again next month? Will it not? All of that discussion, right? That's one aspect of finance. There is the budgeting aspect of finance, which is where, like Rhoda said, you are leveraging on previous information or assumptions.
Not the fun part.
You said?
Not so fun part.
Yeah, it's fun for me, sharp. But yeah, you're taking like the previous information or assumptions, and then you're using that as a basis to forecast what will happen in the future. So that would also require you to have a lot of industry knowledge, depending on which industry you're working. And because you're an accountant, right, you don't really have that industry knowledge like that. So it exposes you to, you get to work with so many departments. Like I used to say, like what I currently do FP&A, if you are working here in financial planning, you are going to know everything, that you are going to know operations, you are going to, because you have to know it to be able to forecast, right? So there's that aspect of finance, right? There is treasury, where you have to do like cash management. The company has cash that's sitting in the bank. How can you take advantage of that? How do you meet your financial obligations? All of that, a lot of things, right? So finance is huge, like accounting is huge. There are so many things to do, right? And then there is the link with finance that then links you to IB, investment bank, right? And then, like Rhoda said, investment banking is majorly focusing on fundraising, capital raising, market research, all of that, right? So you are going to be talking about like mergers and acquisitions. So if you are companies trying to merge, or you are maybe trying to acquire, a lot of that has been going in like banking, and trust me, IBs have been having a field day with that, right? So you have all of that going on. You have mergers, they are always going on. Maybe in a country like Nigeria, right, you don't get to see a lot of that happen. You don't get to see a lot of IPOs. So IPOs is initial public offering, when a company decides to sell its shares to the public, right? You don't get to see that happen very often. But there are still like different aspects, purchasing of stocks and all of that, right? All of that happens also happen with like IB guys. It's not really something I venture into a lot. I think the little part of IB that I get involved with a bit is so I do it outside of my regular work, right? So I do some work with startups. And if you are working with startups, you are going to be doing fundraising, right? Because startups always, you work with venture capitalists, that's VCs, to raise funds for the business, right? Or they cannot do anything, right? So if you are doing, I like to think of startup as a very interesting way to describe the interconnectedness between the three, because with a startup, you're going to be doing a lot of reporting of what has gone on or what's happening. So your management, and then provide insight on that, so your management can make decisions, communicate it effectively to your venture, to the investors or the venture capital, and then at the same time be involved with raising funds that the company will need to continue to survive. So there is a lot of interconnectedness between the three. First interconnectedness is the background has to be solid, which is a background in accounting. You don't, for example, for the work that I do, I really don't know a lot of standards anymore. So if you ask me what something, I might struggle a bit before I remember what it is, right? But then that's what the financial reporting guys are there for. When I have that kind of thing, I can always walk up, so I'm struggling with these standards, right? So I know in school you have to cram standard, but like trust me, when you get into real life, there's a lot of strategy that there's a lot of collaboration that goes on in there. So your background has to be solid. You have to understand basic accounting. So I'm talking your three statement financials, your income statement, your balance sheet, your cash flow. You need to have a solid understanding of how they work, what flows into each other. Trust me, as a student, debit and credit seems like the hardest thing ever, but it's actually really simple once you get to understand basic accounting. And then at some point, it doesn't even become your focus, because you know that if something is moving here, then it has to move here, right? So you have to understand basic accounting. You have to be willing to learn. You have to expose yourself to opportunities. So don't say that because I'm doing accounting, so I only stick to accounting related news, or I'm only reading about new standards that are coming out. You have to keep yourself abreast of what's going on in the public. You have to. I spent a lot of my time when I was like starting, reading a lot of nairametrics, business day, just trying to understand how stuff works, right? And as time goes on, you get to get more solid in that. And then I think the last thing I'll just mention is collaboration, like learning to work with other people. You cannot avoid it if you are going to like build an interconnectedness or become a proper financial professional, right? You cannot avoid that. And then the last part is putting yourself out there, right? So at the end of the day, accountants are plenty, like there are plenty, right? Anybody can tell you debit and credits, right? But you have to find a way to make yourself, in the midst of all of that crowd, make yourself unique and focus on important stuff. Make yourself valuable, right? And then put yourself out there. There's something I like to say, that the work that you do does not have mouths, so it's not going to speak for itself. You know, the way people always say, oh, my work will speak for me, my work. Actually, you have to speak for your work, right? So you have to, a lot of time, like starting in accounting, I used to be very, oh God, do I know what I'm doing? A lot of all those, what they call that in imposter syndrome. And I mean, sometimes you still get a lot of that as you start to, as you advance. But then once you do all of these, stay up to date, you have to then like get past that syndrome and then put yourself out there. Trust me, you always think that everybody knows what you know, but not everybody knows what you know. and you would not even know if everybody knows what you know until you put what you know out there, right? So that means if you need to write, if you need to speak to people, it's not just putting yourself out there, it's not just writing on LinkedIn, right? Even me, I don't do that as often as I would like. But like in your office, let people know that this is what you do and you are so good at it, right? Let them be, for example, when I started working, when I joined my first, within like a few months, you know, you're that guy that everybody's like, people from other teams are like, oh, I have an Excel issue. Oh, go meet this guy. He's good at it. You help you sort it out. With that, you put yourself out there, you become like that guy, right? The go-to guy. People begin to trust you more. When you start to do that, opportunities to collaborate with other teams will pop up. You get to work with, oh, they are doing one deal. Oh, we are working, my company was working on one project last year, huge amount of money, right? But nobody's going to put you in charge of like huge amount of money if you've not already proven yourself that you are good at the one you're already doing, right? So you need to be able to put yourself out there and then like be good at all of this stuff. And then as the opportunity comes to collaborate, to work with maybe when they are doing M&As or when they are doing to work with other teams, the treasury function, different functions, as that opportunity presents yourself, you're able to then take advantage of them. So thank you.
Wow. Wow. I don't know, but my notepad, I wish I could show you my notepad. Like, it's literally full. Thank you so much, Samson. I think if there's something I took out from what you said so far, is first of all, they all have relationships, right? And that is why, as an accounting student, as an accounting graduate, somebody who is already in the field of accounting has given you that foundation you need to fly. So even if you eventually want to go into finance, like core finance, or you even want to go into investment banking, your knowledge of accounting can give you that wings to fly. So if you're an accountant, don't lose hope yet. Just know that you're on right track. And as you keep putting yourself out there, as you keep improving yourself, definitely somehow you just get to find the balance. There's something he said, I just want to reiterate. He said, sometimes so people would say your work will speak for you, something like that. But he said something that I really wrote down, and I think I'll have to start doing. He said, speak for your work, like tell people what you do, put your work out there. And you cannot put your work out there or even tell people what you do when you have not worked on yourself to actually bring or develop something or learn something that is worth speaking about. So that's back to you, our audience, that you need to work on yourself. And when you eventually work on yourself, you need to start telling people about what you do, because if you don't put yourself out there, nobody's going to come and carry you. Nobody's going to know that you can use Excel well. Nobody's going to know that you're so grounded with what is happening in the political scene or in the economic scene. Nobody's going to know unless you put yourself out there. So thank you so much, Mr. Samson. I hope we've been learning. I really hope we have been learning, because I have been learning, and I'm happy, because if you're not learning and I'm learning, I think it's a win-win for me, right? But then we'll just move quickly to another question. Our time is running and we should be concluding very soon. But then just few questions. I'm trying to ensure that we answer all of your questions. I'm trying to make sure that all of the questions you asked when filling the form, I'm trying to ensure that we all get answers to those questions, and we're leaving here with a clearer perspective about this accounting, this finance, what is it all about, and how they relate to technology. So another question for our panelists is on, this question has been very rampant, but I think I'll just ask the question. So what are your views on, you can take it with the other question I'll ask. So this is the question. So what are your views on the potential for AI? I think you've touched on this, so you just do a very small explanation. So the person is asking, what are your views on the potentials for AI to replace accountants? And how can accountants proactively position themselves to stay at the forefront of technological advancement in their field? So this is quite similar to this question. In the light of recent wave of technological advancement in the accounting field, what advice would you offer accountants and finance professionals to ensure they remain relevant in the ever-evolving landscape? So this is like two questions in one, but they are quite similar, and you've touched on it before, so you can just share more light, then we'll go to the other questions we have for today. So over to you, Rhoda. I know you are in a tech firm, so I'm sure if there are people that are more informed about AI, this, I'm sure you should be like should be one of the first persons to know. So I'll just give it to you. You share your view, and then we'll take the question to Mr. Samson. Over to you, Rhoda.
All right, thank you. So where do I start from? Okay. The next
Anyway.
story is I'm sorry, I think maybe you've noticed by now. But when I entered Microsoft, one of the very first things I noticed was how wide their finance division was. I never expected it from a tech company. I never expected it from a from I don't know, from a non-accounting company, right? But it's so detailed, so focused. Like there are lots and very broad teams across their finance teams. And a lot to not even bring it further. So as much as the finance team in MS is so wide, we are still a very lean organization for the amount of work that we do. Because a lot of people work cross-border, like you're not just working for your country, most likely. You're working for either a region, a sub-region, across very different areas or countries. And that's because a lot of the things that we do have been automated. Like a lot of the things we do have already been automated. So when people ask me, do I do accounting? I don't do accounting. Since I entered my role, I don't even know how they do the accounting. I think it's outsourced, while a large portion of it is even automated. So what we focus on is mostly finance, mostly acquisitions, all of those other aspects, right? And so I think working in a tech company like Microsoft has made me realize that. So let me give you a bit of perspective. So we recently had a form of like all hands or kickoff, and our GM, because we have lots, but the GM of my org was basically saying he doesn't even know what will become of accounting or finance or our profession in the next coming years. And I'm like, I'm looking up to you, and you're telling me you don't know. But that's simply it. I can't say I know what will happen in the next coming years, but I know that AI is making things a lot more easier, giving me the opportunity to concentrate on what really matters, right? So you have automated the repetitive tasks. Now I can focus more on strategy. I can focus more on the impact on the company, on our efforts, on what's going to happen in the future, focus on our people. How can we actually optimize our costs? How can we make sure we are improving efficiencies? How can we make our life easier, like have extra time for fun? We're not living. So those long hours we spend in work, let's cut it down to the appropriate amount of time, right? And just all of that all together, make sure we are maximizing our shareholders' wealth, stakeholders' wealth. And AI has really opened up my eyes to see that I can focus on more important things. But it has also opened up my eyes to the fact that I should also make myself more diverse. So I am not just focusing on accounting. What other skills do I use in my current role? What other skills do I use? So like I said, the skills I've used like I said, I'm doing a rotation. The skills I've used have kind of differed. Communication is a very important skill when you're working with multiple stakeholders. Understanding markets. I mean, AI can do so much, but at the end, when it comes to market entrance, you're looking for where exactly do you want to go first? How do you plan on navigating those complexities that come with people, that comes with governance, like you spoke about compliance? A lot of things would have to involve human input, and AI can do so much. So you are growing yourself from just the numbers to actually utilizing those numbers to make decisions, right, for the company. And then also, how can you improve yourself beyond just accounting? Like I said, there are other skills you can build. Project management is just one example, right? There are other places that you don't have to do everything. Not everything is for you, right? So look at it in relation to the role you are doing, in relation to what you want to grow in. What other skills do you think are necessary? So for example, the current role I'm doing, I realize that project management is important in this role because I'm managing multiple vendors. I'm doing like a more worldwide role. And so I have to do a lot of management. So before I was doing a lot of like numbers, I was doing a lot of, interacting with our business. It was more of a commercial role. Now I'm coming into more of an expense role. So things really change. And even when it comes to payroll, I'm hearing that how many % of the process is automated, and they're saying I should come automate more. I'm like, wow. And it just shows how much capacity there is. So if you are still finding yourself in a startup, that you are using paper and biro. It's great to understand basic accounting, but I want you to dream big. There are a lot more decisions you can be making, and a lot more value you can be adding, right? So AI is not yet to steal your job. I mean, it will if you stay in the past. And that's why we are humans. We have the capacity to learn. So just be open to learn what is relevant and just embrace it, right? So
What is
Yeah.
relevant? Just embrace it. Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Samson.
Yeah. So thanks. So I spoke a bit on this earlier. Let me just first of all give some context to AI. So what AI, which is artificial intelligence, is supposed to do is it's supposed to take over monotonous tasks. So a lot of people complain about accounting is monotonous. So we are saying that, okay, you will not do the monotonous task anymore, right? So that's basically what AI does. So it takes away those things. I know the thing is that with a lot of companies
exactly.
that are very manual, right? You spend more than 50% of your time doing monotonous tasks. In fact, maybe more than 70% of your time doing those things. Now, there's something they call RPAs, robotic process automation. So what that's an example of AI, right? And I worked on something related to that sometime last year. So what that does is it looks at the part of your finance processes and then say, there's this particular thing, you do it over and over and over again. It's the same way you do it. You take something here, you add it here, you do this here, you do this here, and then just takes that and says, you know what, let me take that off your hands so that you can have that time to focus on more serious stuff. All right. And with time, that begins to advance to other things, like even modeling, right? I'm currently working on like projects related to that obviously cannot see, but like as you start to advance, right, you start to work on things that you start to explore ways of taking out monotonous tasks from what you do, right? And there are opportunities to do that in accounting, right? And that's where AI comes in, okay? I remember when I started, I said that what is my work? My work is that I help the business make smart financial decisions. I don't help the business prepare financial models. I don't help the business prepare financial account. All of that, they are things that I have to do to be able to make to help the business with the decision making, but they are not my work in itself. For example, when I'm trying to assess a project or a revenue opportunity or a cost saving initiative, I'm trying to do a forecast. When I finish, I'm not going to carry my model and I'm making presentation to CEO. I won't take my model to the CEO and say, come and see my model, oh, this is what I did. Do you understand? What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take the insights that I've derived from the model that I've prepared and then present it, because that's what they are going to then use to make decisions. So all of those time that I spend doing that manual work, what AI is going to do is it comes and then it replaces that. What's the benefit of that? It means that you can focus on more serious tasks. It means that you get better accuracy because you don't have to it's easy to make mistakes, right? And as long as you're human, you can skip a couple of things. So better accuracy, better compliance, all of that thing, right? So how do you prepare? What can you do as an accountant? First of all, embrace it. Like I said earlier, and I learned from David Brown, is that look at AI as a personal assistant. It's coming a way to take out the other stuff you do so that you can then lean into your actual responsibility and get that done. You can provide more insights, you can assess more things, you can speak more, right? So embrace it, right? Be adaptable, learn, okay? Develop soft skills. So your presentation, collaboration, you have to develop all of that. At the end of the day, most of my work, I say a lot of time, right? Like I spend more than 50% of my time in meetings, right? Because I'm making presentations with different people. Today I'm making a presentation or trying to understand what's going on, business partnering, which is another aspect of finance, with maybe operations. Tomorrow I'm having it with finance. Next tomorrow I'm having it with the CEO. Okay, the day after I'm having it with maybe the UK office or somewhere in Cameroon, right? All of that is what the actual work is. Gaining all those insights, interpreting it, communicating it to your stakeholders. That's your actual work. AI frees up your time so that you can focus on that work. Okay, so it's to lean into that, developing soft skills, presentation. You know how you say, like, when you're starting, like, oh, I'm shy, I don't like to speak in public, can I come out? See, at some point, right, if you are going to advance, you have to like let go of all of that. I would not say that I was I don't want to be like, oh, so dramatic. Oh, I used to be very shy when I was growing up. I didn't used to be shy. I always was one person that would speak up, right? It doesn't mean that speaking up was always easy for me. It just felt like something that I always had to do. So even though I'm feeling a type of way as when I'm about to start, I just do it anyway, right? So I want to speak somewhere and I'm like, do these people know what I want to talk about? Would they even think it makes sense? But right, it's not like I don't have those thoughts that make me withdraw. But it's like, even though I'm having these thoughts, I still have to speak, right? I still have to let them know. So that's the way it is. So you have to like build your soft skills, get into public speaking, speak more, right? Present more, and then focus on like working with other people, collaboration, working with clients, investor relations, client relations, all of that thing. Your work as a finance person is not just to prepare balance sheets or to prepare financial statement. It's what you do with it, right? And that's what you have to prepare yourself for a life out after, or for how I'll call it, the next step after accounting, right? So read a lot, study a lot, learn a lot, work with people, and don't limit yourself to one single task. Like, oh, I'm so good at accounting, I can prepare accounts from today to tomorrow. Like, you have to live past that, right? You have to break out from your box of specializing in a monotonous task, because like Rhoda said, the only job that AI will take is the job that human beings cannot do. So you have to be able to, the job that, so you have to be able to constantly think and say, is this something that is reserved for humans, right? Is this only, you can make, and that's where soft skills presentation comes in. You're the only one that's going to critically analyze information, make sense, right? AI will come, maybe does one thing, tells you that 50% of your sales is coming from Lagos, right? That's all. You now have to start thinking, okay, why? What's making it happen? Where is it? The way we are structured? Is there our strategy? Is when you think about all those things outside of that, you are then able to present your findings to management. That's what management is going to make sense of. Do you understand? So think, expand your knowledge, expand your thoughts, expand your ideas. Always ask questions. Yes, always, yes, Rhoda, always ask questions. Like I tell people, sometimes when I do like have conversations with people, I'm always asking questions like, why do you always ask questions? Sorry, I ask questions for a living. Like that's what my work. My work is literally asking questions, right? I literally have to ask everybody questions. I'm in a meeting with maybe the CCO, the chief commercial officer, that has been doing commercial activities for 20 years when I was still in primary school. But you come and present numbers to me, and then I have to ask him questions. And you're like, what do I know? But you still have to ask questions. Do you understand? So you have to start thinking every single information that you are faced with. Ask questions. What insights can I derive from this? How can I make sense of this? Right? Let me stop here.
Why is also, if they give you a task to do, sorry, I just need to add, like try and understand why. It helps you know who are the users, and what exactly they need. Like ask why until you understand it, right? So you're not going to carry task that somebody was doing before you don't understand the purpose. You're actually doing it and it's not making any impact. Don't waste your time.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And not just asking why. As you start to advance, you also need to start asking yourself, so this work that I'm doing now, what's the advantage for the business? Like for your company, right? And that was one thing when I switched like my role, when I started doing FP&A, that was one of the things that contributed to that switch, because I was doing a lot of work and I could actually, not like I couldn't see, but I wanted to be involved in like the end result. Like, okay, so after I finished now with this account that I did, or this reconciliation that I've done now, so what's the purpose? Like, so what happens next? Like, what's not the usefulness? Do you understand? Like, what's the usefulness of what are all these things I've just spent my last 2 days, my last week doing? Right? So you need to start asking those kind of questions. Get yourself involved in those conversations. When I started doing FP&A, I didn't used to get invited to a lot of big meetings, right? They said they are doing one meeting, oh, you don't know what's going on there, sit back, you go and do the model, we'll come back and explain what happened. But like you push, like I want to know what's going on. I want to know what the next stage is. if I'm doing this work, why am I doing it? What's the purpose? What's going to come out of it? Right? As you start to think like that, the opportunities to learn, the opportunity to make the right insights start to come up. One day they're just going to say, oh, come, let's go for this meeting. Let's go for this call. And then you enter the meeting. It's not that you now get there finished. You now be doing, oh, I'm there. See, I enter every day. I go into meetings like where I'm the least person or the kid, right? Like I go into the meeting and then it's just these big men, all these big boys in the calls. Like, and then you're just like, so what am I doing here? Right. But at some point you need to realize that the fact that you're in that room in the first place means that there's something you can contribute. Right. So you have to be willing to contribute it. Like if you need to speak up, right? Show, again, speaking about your work, right? Show that you know what you are doing. Sometimes showing you know what you are doing doesn't even mean like, oh, you have to now speak up. Like, okay, everybody come and hear what I want to say, right? But just mean like one opportunity will just come up to make a comment about something, and you just say, oh, I think it's like this, like this, like this. And everybody looks at you like, he knows what he's talking about. Do you understand what I'm saying? So yeah, important stuff.
Why am I finding it difficult to amuse myself? Wow.
You're muted. Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry, I was talking. I thought I was unmuted, but I discovered I was muted. So thank you. I really don't know, but I hope we're getting value. I hope we're taking notes. I hope we're making some certain decisions in our head. Just to throw more light, everything they've said is actually correct. And just in case you're wondering or you're scared, oh, AI is coming. AI is coming for the people that don't know what they are doing, right? AI is coming for the people that would rather stick with the monotonous tasks in accounting than just improving. There was something I saw on the internet by someone, and the person said that reasons why accountants should not be scared of the recent evolution in tech and everything is because an AI may not be able to make some certain decision. They are not able to think and apply empathy. They don't understand what clients want. No matter how you try to explain to them or how you try to program them, they really don't understand how clients want, because we have different clients and they don't have that ability to empathize with clients. They don't have that ability they don't have feelings. So that's why I tell people that, so accounting is no longer your regular, accounting or finance has moved to just decision making, provided you are able to make a decision that nobody else can make, or a decision that cannot be computerized. That is what accounting is. Before we define accounting as is the collection, recording, summarizing. AI will do everything. The only thing AI will not do is when it comes to communicating these results in a way that makes sense, in a way that helps add value to the stakeholders. So thank you very much, Mr. Samson and Rhoda. We have overshot the time, but then we'll quickly just take 3 more questions, and we also have some questions in the chat box. We'll address the questions and we wrap up for the session. So another question we have here is we still have a lot of questions. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to choose the particular one to ask. So somebody's asking. Okay, I'll take this one before we go into this one. So somebody's asking, what common mistakes can young accountants avoid? And I think you've answered this question. And if you were to go back in time, what specific action or decision would you consider doing differently for your professional growth? So we're going to take this question alongside this other question, because I'm sure you've touched or you've addressed this question in a way while answering the previous questions. So the other question you can answer alongside this question is a question on, could you please provide an overview of the various, you've talked about it, the various specialized areas within accounting, and for each area, can you share qualifications or certifications that are recognized for positioning people as experts in those fields? So I'll just read it again. So the person is asking, could you please provide an overview of the various specialized area within accounting, and for each area, could you share certifications or qualifications that are recognized for positioning people as experts in those specific fields? So these are the questions. You can just address it and we'll move to the last question for this session. So over to you, Rhoda and Mr. Samson.
I should go first. Okay. Okay, so the first question was, if I think back, what would I do differently? So like Mr. Samson said, one of his, life policies that I should do, should work, anything was doing is not doing well. One of my own is do not regret. So if I've done something, let's look forward. And that means that before I do something, I have to make sure I do it well. Sorry. So that means before I do something, I have to actually make sure I do well, because I don't want to regret. So when I actually look back to school, I don't think there's anything I think I would have wanted to really do differently, because whenever I saw that something was not going as well as I thought, I changed my strategy. Yeah. Okay, that was a notification that I should plug. But I think one thing I would really advise is, we've said this a number of times, put yourself out there. Like I spoke about the time I got an internship, like don't limit yourself to just your education. Try and do something additional. What additional skill are you building? What else are you adding to? And when I got, not my audit internship, but when I worked as a student for like over a year. It was because somebody like said, oh, you can reach out to this girl, like she's really good. And I was not the person's first choice. The person chose two other people, and then they said, no, they are not interested. And then they recommended me. And the reason why they recommended me was because I was in a position where I was in their minds. I was tutoring my classmates. I was tutoring 100 level, 200 level students. And because I was in a position.
Hi, Rhoda. Are you still on the call? Can anybody still hear or see Rhoda?
I think she was logged out, maybe network.
All right. So, Mr. Samson, while we wait for her, I'll just reach out to her. While we wait for her, you could just take it up from here and just share a bit of your perspective while I reach out to her.
Okay, all right. So I think because of time, I've mentioned a couple of things previously, like focusing on soft skills, continuous learning, always looking for opportunities to learn, working with, like, collaborating, peer mentoring. But I think one thing that I need to also mention, which I think is a mistake that a lot of people do, and is taking feedback, right? So a lot of times, like when you are starting, taking feedback can be really difficult for a lot of people. And I think most times it's because there is a lot of focus on the person giving the feedback, or the method in which the feedback is communicated, rather than the feedback itself. Right now, not saying that there can't be, like, obviously there can always be changes or improvements in, like, how feedback is communicated, right? But at the end of the day, feedback is feedback. And let me give an example. If I say that this ball is, maybe I'm holding a ball, right? And I say the ball is black, right? Doesn't matter how I say it, the ball is still going to be black. Whether you choose to accept it, whether you feel like I could have communicated the blackness in a different way, right? At the end of the day, what happens is that the ball is still black. So I always like to say, obviously, this is not like trying to, like, say, oh, you should take or, like, deal with or accept toxicity or whatnot. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, most times when we receive feedback, we are always very defensive, right? Oh, it's not really like that. That's not what. But, like, every time you receive feedback, your first reception should be, what is this person really trying to say? How can I fix this, right? Rather than trying to find a way to defend yourself and whatnot. So I think there's a lot of... Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You can go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Samson. Thank you.
All right. So like I'll say that a lot of people like to focus too much on like issues around the feedback itself. It's instead, but try to focus on the feedback when it's given, take it and work on it, right? Because that's what you need to advance as you go ahead. I'm also, in terms of like regrets, in a way, I think I'm also similar to Rhoda in that I say it a lot of time. I don't do regrets because I think it's a waste of my time. All right. So obviously, if I look back, there are things I think that, oh, I could have done this better. Like, oh, maybe like, for example, I said earlier that I didn't start using Excel until after I finished uni. I go, oh, I could have done that much earlier, right? Could have taken advantages of a lot of things and learned a lot of things way earlier before I even finished uni, right? But you make good time of like the time you have, right? Rather than sit back and be focused on what could have happened or what you could have done or what, I mean, you take the cards that you've been dealt with and then just go. I know they say like if life gives you lemon, make lemonade, right? Take wherever you are, wherever you are, at what point you are, and just move on and like fix stuff that you have done. But for people that are starting early, I'll say try to learn as much as possible. Try to focus on building skills. Like at this point in your life is so important. Like build skills, whether it's art skills, soft skills, relevant skills. Don't go and learn Peachtree. All right, like build relevant skills, stuff that like people use. So build that, build your network, like surround yourself with people that are also willing to do stuff that you want to do. I saw an article recently, right? And then I saw like, no, I think it was a tweet or something. Someone was tweeting about how like they graduated as the best graduating student, joint best graduating student with someone else, and it turned out that both of them were roommates, right? And I'm like, it can't be a coincidence, right? Because who you surround yourself, like I see cliques that there are cliques and all of them got first class, right? Everybody in the clique came out with first class. I don't think things like that happen by chance. I think that the kind of people you have around you would motivate you to do things that you want to get done. So you want to focus on this part of finance. Look for people that are also looking to do that and then work together and motivate yourself. Trust me, many times, see when I was doing my SCCA exam, sometimes when I wake up like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. to read, like my first 5 minutes, I'm like, how long will I continue like this? Who sent me a message? Do you get like a lot of times you're going to get to those positions where you're like, life is not this hard now. Like, who sent you?
I can relate.
But like having people around you that feel similarly and that they want to also do something similar to what you are doing is like a good motivation. So even when you're like tired and then you're stressed, you just look at the other person and like, nah, let's do this thing. Let's do this thing. Let's just do it, right? You build. I like to say I'm a very self-motivated person, right? But outside of that, like I also draw a lot of motivation from people around me. I also draw a lot of motivation from money, by the way. So that's by the way. But like you can find motivation anywhere, right? So be whatever your motivation is going to be, like stick with it, ride with it, run with it, like keep motivating yourself, keep doing whatever it is that you need to do, and just, forge ahead, get whatever it is you need to get done, whatever you are doing, whatever you decide to do, focus on it and make sure that you are giving it all of your best. Right? I always say something, if I put something, failure, anybody can fail at anything, right? But if I fail at something, I tell myself that at the very least, I knew that I tried my best, right? So even, I mean, it's not every failure that eventually turns to success. You know how we do a lot of motivational speech and we say, oh, so failure is one road to success. Sometimes failure is just failure. Failure is God telling you that you should not do the thing that you're doing again, right? So a lot of times you just need to always reassess whatever situation you find yourself in. Don't just jump into anything because of trend, right? Don't just say, oh, everybody is doing this. So you just, there's another thing again that a lot of people do growing, like younger people, there's what we call FOMO, fear of missing out. Everybody is doing this now. So I think I should get into it as well. If this is a new one that everybody is doing, maybe I should get into that one as well. this one, everybody is doing this one. Sometimes it can be good, but sometimes it can be very destructive if you don't have a focus, right? For example, like me, if I take up someone, maybe entry level, and then I pick up your CV, or not even entry level, I pick up your CV, maybe I'm not interviewing for a role, pick up your CV. Sometimes when I see like what different things I have done, it's two things. It either speaks to the fact that you are very intent on getting knowledge. But if there's everything is just scattered, like you have a certification in finance, and then you have a certification in like something totally unrelated. Like I'm like, this person really know what they want to do. So plan your life, figure out what you want to do. As much as you're in a stage where you can try different things, try as much as possible to have a focus and do whatever it is you want to do. I think the last thing I'm just going to mention is that time is not going anywhere, right? So like, don't feel like there's this thing we do where we are like, oh, I studied accounting or I studied biology in school, so that means I must do biology when I get out. Do you get, like, there's that thing that happens a lot in school. So when people are picking this thing, you're picking like, oh, this is what I studied because this is what I want to spend the rest of my life doing. You don't have to live like that, right? So feel free to be flexible with what you want to do as long as you have a solid plan, right? You know, like I said, I started with audits. From audits, I moved into like some management, and then from there, I went into FP&A. Because at each point in time, I'm always reassessing, what am I doing? Is it relevant? Is this what I want to keep doing? If it's not, or if it's no longer relevant, I need to start thinking of the next thing to do. And also, I always think, will this thing make money? Because trust me, we work to make money at the end of the day, right? Fashion is sweet, well, fashion will not buy your iPhone. Just saying, right? So at the end of the day, you have to, whatever it is you are doing, you have to make sure that it's something that can create value, because that's how money comes. Money comes because someone is offering it to you as a perception of the value that you create. So whichever thing, as you are reassessing, you are saying, can this thing create value? Would people value it? Will company value it? Would it stand the test of time? Will it stand the test of changes in technology? Would it evolve? Right? So don't just think about like now, think about like future.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm sure if we are to if we are to keep going on and on, questions will keep going, and we'll just sleep here and turn into a night with you and continue. So thank you very much. Thank you for the insightful nuggets you've dropped. But there's something you did not mention about certifications, but I think you've talked about it.
Yeah. So about certification, right? Just so that I don't speak too much.
Yeah.
Again, it's related to just knowing what you want to do, right? There are many certifications, especially like in accounting. There are so many certifications. There is ICANN, there's ANA, there's ACCA, there is CFA, CFE, AFM, FRCM, EFCC. There are so many certifications, right? There are too many certifications. You need to figure out, what do I want to do, right? So I start with ICANN. I think if you want to do accounting, anything related to accounting, you need to have an ICANN certificate, especially in Nigeria, right? Unless you're planning to Japan, in which case, yeah. But like if you're in Nigeria, I think it's very, even if you're planning to Japan, to be honest, right? Everybody values the fact that you have at least one accounting certification. So you can get that done. But even if you don't want to do accounting, like if you want to do IB, for example, you may not need a certification in accounting to do investment banking or investment research, right? You might need to do something else, right? And there's one that they use, I've forgotten the name of that, CIS, Strategy of Stockbroking, right? For people that want to do a lot more market research. There's CFA, if you are looking to do more investment banking and market research. There is, if you are looking to do fraud, there's like CFE, Certified Fraud Examiners. There are so many certifications. What you need to determine is it relevant to what I want to do? Is it relevant to where I want to work? Can I afford it? Right? Because certifications are expensive, right? I didn't realize like how expensive certifications were until, not just education, and again, not just education, even after you finish the exam, you pay subscription. I know how much I pay for a CCA, right? It's a whole lot of money, right? So you have to also consider, can you afford it? Now, certifications are important, but certifications are not everything. At the end of the day, you have to be able to demonstrate the knowledge that you have. So one thing that I never let slide as an excuse is that, oh, I don't have money, so I didn't do any certification. Even if you can't afford to do like any type of certification is beyond just like having the certificate. There's something it communicates to a potential employer that you are willing to go all out for something you believe in, right? So even if you can't afford it, there are always like online certifications, Udemy, Coursera, all those ones that you can have to build yourself pending when you are able to now gather enough money to do the type of certification that you want. All right. So I don't want you to be too focused on, oh, this is the certification that you have to do to make it like that. You just need to consider, is it relevant to what I actually want to do as a branch of accounting? Once you figure out what you want, just figure out what you want to do, then in a way it now informs if you need to do further certifications or if you need to stick with something else. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. I think we're done. Don't worry, if your question has not been answered, rest assured that our other panelists or other facilitators will answer your question. Well, just the last questions and we'll wrap up. But I'm sure we've been getting value. I'm sure we've been making some decisions in our head based on all that has been said here. But Toyosi is asking a question on the group, on the chat, in the chat box. He said, I'll be having my induction. I want to believe that that's her ICANN induction in November. I'm also currently preparing for my CFA level 1. I have over 2 years of experience in the accounting/finance space, but I am currently in the banking space as an accounts officer. Trust me, I'm not enjoying one bit of what I'm currently doing, and it's not so easy navigating my way back to the more direct units in the bank. Please, what can I do? I think we'll take Toyosi's question and every other question here. Trust me, it has been noted. Linda is taking note of it and would ask our subsequent facilitator so that Rhoda and Samson can focus on other things they have to do this Saturday. So, Mr. Samson, you just throw insight on that question from Toyosi and Rhoda, and then we can wrap up because we also have another session and the facilitator is around. So, yeah. Thank you.
All right, thanks. I think what I'll just quickly say, first of all, disclaimer, I've not really worked in banking. I don't really know like the processes in banking and how it works, right? So first thing I would advise is that I speak to someone in banking, maybe someone in your organization or someone outside of your organization. All right. So there are a lot of things to consider based on what you're saying. First of all, I like the fact that you say you're doing your induction, I believe it's not ICANN, and then you're doing your CFA level. So those basically are signs that you know what you're doing, right? In terms of like you're studious, you have the requisite knowledge and all of that, right? So first of all, you have to decide honestly if you want to keep working in banking, right? So if you want to keep working in banking, then you have to speak to people in that space to let them or to get an understanding of what you're doing. And then you have to be willing to be mobile. Like if your current organization is not giving you what you want, you have to feel free to walk away, right? So for example, I always advise one thing, and it might come off some type of way, but like your career is your baby, like it's in your hands. Whatever you make of it is your responsibility. So don't let like maybe expectations of other people or the company. See, every company does what's best for itself. The only reason why you still have a job with any company you are in is because the company thinks that you are doing a good job or you are solving some of its problems, right? And I think that that's the same way that you should think about your career, right? Is my current role or is my current company solving my problems in terms of my career? Are they meeting my career needs? If they are not, then I think you should be open to exploring other opportunities where they will allow you to do what you enjoy doing, because you don't, like you said, you don't sound like you enjoy what you are currently doing. So if you need to work with another company, then you have to start doing that. You have the right education, so you just need to put yourself out there. Second thing, you have to network properly. So there's always somebody in every organization that knows what's going on, right? Or that knows how things are done. You have to like meet with those people. It could be your line manager. You'll have an honest conversation with your line manager that this is how I feel about my current role. this is what I would like to do, and then take it up from there. It could be with HR, it could be with like, I don't know how like the culture of openness is in your company. It could be with maybe just another director, or just someone in the company, or maybe you're eyeing another unit, right? You could have a conversation with someone in that unit, right? That, oh, I'm trying to switch. And I'm saying this as someone that's had to switch like across departments in an organization, right? You have to have discussion. The thing is, nobody really knows what's going on in your mind if you don't tell them, right? So you see a lot of cases where people say, oh, I wanted to leave, but I didn't know how. And then they're like, who did you ask? Right? So you need to ask someone that what can you do if you are trying to switch departments? If not, think of like doing something else, or like extending your space to outside of your company. And again, put yourself out there, network. So network with other people so that you get to understand what they are doing, and also to put you in positions where you're open to other opportunities, right? So network, and then write about the stuff that you do. Okay. If you don't, one thing that people also don't, and I'll just drop before I stop. A lot of times I think that when we write, we should only write about what you do. But sometimes it might be very helpful to write about what you want to do. So for example, if you are trying to move into another space in accounting or in your banking, you start to read about it. You can just start like writing pieces on stuff that you're learning, your learning process. And trust me, there's always someone that is watching. It could be like writing about it, it could be speaking about it, right? As you continue that process, you document it, you write ahead and all of that. People take note of that. And when the opportunity to transition comes up, you're able to take advantage of it. Okay. So I hope that helps.
It sure does. I want to believe that she's here and she can hear. Yes, she can hear you. So thank you very much. At this point, I think we've done justice to all the questions, and I want to believe that everybody has gotten clarity.
Sorry, is it just me, or is
No, I think we were not.
okay, network isn't very good. Okay, I think she should be joining back shortly. We missed you earlier, brother. I think your network went off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. I stopped connecting my laptop. But yeah.
Yeah. But you didn't get to finish what you were saying. Maybe you just want to quickly finish before they all get back.
Okay. Yeah, so I think just put yourself out there, like beyond you focusing on yourself, beyond you focusing on your academics. I think we're answering what regrets do I have, or what would I wish I had done differently in school. So yeah, just put yourself out there. Join. When people are telling me, like especially the students here, like join. Yeah, you're in accounting or finance. Join finance club. Join enactors like impact organizations. You never know where you really find, especially if you think that accounting is not what you really want to do. Try and find out. Try very different things, and even if accounting is what you want to do, it's not enough. Make impact somewhere beyond yourself. Yeah, so I think that's it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Oh, so sorry about that. I don't know what happened from my end, but it looks like I was out of the session for a while. But I don't know, can you still hear me and see me? All right. Sorry about that. I really apologize about the break in transmission. I don't know what happened. This is Nigeria, but we'll be all right. So thank you very much, Rhoda. Thank you, Samson. Like I was saying before I went, I hope we've been able to learn. I hope we've been able to take something out of this session. The goal of having a Q&A session as opposed to giving the panelists a topic to speak on is to ensure that we get clarity on those areas that we are still confused on or confused in as accountants, as finance professionals. And no doubt, I'm very certain that Mr. Samson and Rhoda have been able to provide this level of clarity to you. So this is like a charge to you. And they're going to give us their parting words, definitely. but just this like a charge to you. If you're on this call, I want you to take ownership of your career journey, take ownership of your life. Trust me, some people would say you miss, or it's until you take that step. You may not really know if my internet is unstable. You may not really know if something is for you, or if you can even do it, if you can do IB, if you can understand what the hell is happening in Excel or in financial modeling, until you really take that bold step. So we'll just take pattern words from Rhoda and Samson. Just to talk about the team, your words of encouragement to the participant, and how just your pattern words basically, while we get ready for the next session. Yeah, so over to you, Rhoda. You go first, and ladies first, and then
Okay. So I think that majorly means that you are in charge of your life. So one thing one of my previous managers used to tell me was that he used to tell me I don't speak enough about the things I do. And I was like, am I supposed to be tooting my horn? Yes, I am. I didn't realize until I changed managers. So my first manager was very intentional about me, emphasizing and quantifying the things I did. My second manager did not care. If not that my previous manager is telling me your life is in your hands, your work is in your hands, and not everybody cares about your success, I don't think I would have known that. Just know that don't leave your life to chance. Plan it. Don't only have one plan. Say that it's your uncle you're banking on, or this master, if they don't give you scholarship, that's the end. You should have alternatives. If one thing does not work, what is the next best thing for you to fall back on what you want, right? And just be very strategic. It's your life. At the end of the day, now you go enjoy them, or now you go suffer. And you don't want to suffer, you want to enjoy. And a lot of people are banking on you. And think beyond just yourself. Think wider. When you think beyond yourself, you are putting yourself out there for more impact. And that's one thing I personally want to do more, contribute to other people. So so as a student, you're working, just new to the employment space, let's toot our horns. We will not be prideful like they say, but every other people are out there putting all your certification. If you don't put your own, they will overpass you anyways. But yeah, that's my
Thanks. I think I'll just quickly go ahead, right? Again, sorry, I know I've been speaking a lot and like to say I like talking. And yes, I do. so I think what I'll just say, first of all, fix your mentality. Nothing is beyond your reach, right? And I'm not saying this to be a motivational speaker, right? But nothing is beyond your reach. I remember when I was in uni, there's one argument I had with people in my roommates at that time. And I can't forget the argument. It was we're arguing what amount is good enough for you to earn after you leave uni. And I remember telling arguing. It was almost like I was the only one that was arguing for I'm like, oh, I can't earn less than 100,000. I can't earn less than 100,000. Blah blah blah. It's too small. I'm almost a chartered accountant. Right, my first salary was 30,000 naira. Yes, and then my first ever working salary was 30K, and I earned that for a couple of months, almost a year actually. But my next job after that was multiples of that, and then at the end of the day, right, nothing is beyond your reach. There's this mentality that people used to have that some particular type of jobs are for some particular type of people, and then you don't stand a chance, so you should just stick to the 50K jobs and the 30K jobs, and they're not the ones that they used to have on all of those job sites that we see that day. But for reals, nothing is beyond your reach. I like to say every time, I've worked with two multinationals. I worked with Total before I started working in IHS. Prior to working with both companies, I'd never I didn't know any single person. Right. So when I applied for my role in Total at the time, I didn't know anybody, right? And there were a lot of oh, you can't work in oil company if you don't know anybody. Nobody's going to, you need to know somebody. And again, I'm not going to deny that there might be office politics, but don't count yourself out for a chance that you have not taken advantage of yet, right? So, and then don't like throw a pity party if things don't work out for you. So if you apply for a role in a multinational, you can get it, right, without knowing anyone. You have to figure stuff out, like get a very good CV. If you need to get someone to do that for you, that's fine. Work on like your interview skills, put yourself out there, right? If you apply for the job, you can get it. Like that should be your mentality. Like, I can get it, right? I see people that in uni, I had guys that applied for jobs in Bank of America, like for internships in Bank of America, and they got it. When me, I was running around campus playing piano, right? So like always think about it like there's nothing that is beyond your reach. If there's an internship you like, go for it, apply for it. There's a job you find interesting, apply for it. Don't limit yourself to like a particular, like this is the only thing that you can do. This is the only thing they will accept me as. No, like apply for jobs that you don't even think you can get, right? Nothing is beyond your reach. Okay. First thing.
Yeah.
Second, don't place any limitation on yourself. So whether that is like age or anything, like don't place any limitation or like I'm too old. Companies only accept like 25, 26. Like, bro, if you need to get I'm not denying the fact that like you can, like things are a lot more easy at some particular stages in your lives. But again, nothing is out of your reach, right? So I have stories of people that finished uni with 2-2 and then they are like doing very, very well, right? Even working like top organizations. I have people that are like that finish uni at an older age than most people, and they're also doing very well, right? So don't get into this, oh, I'm too old for this. See, the thing that if you need to take another certification, like take it. Don't say, oh, people then I think this certification are a lot younger than I am. The thing that Akalabi used to say, and I really, really dig it a lot. Like if you are 30 and you want to study medicine, and then you say, oh, medicine is 7-year course, it's an 8-year course. By the time you do it, I'll be 38. See, if you don't study the medicine, you'll still be 38 and you'll not be a medical doctor, right? You'll still be where you were, right? So if you have to do it, then, oh, certifications take time. This one will take like 2 years, 3 years. By that time, I'll be 30. Well, you will still be 30 in 2 years, right? So you can either be 30 without the certification or be 30 with the certification, right? So don't place like limitations on yourself, like age limitation. Oh, I'm not from a rich family, so this stuff can't work out for me. Don't put any barriers, don't create any barriers for yourself. Things can be harder than it is with most people, but they are never impossible. Okay. So don't place limitations on yourself. Always reach out for what you want. Always say what you want. Don't don't get like to a position where you cannot express yourself. Be free to express yourself. Network effectively, right? Like very important stuff. Network effectively. Whatever is worth doing at all, do it well. That means that if you are going for an interview, you prepare like your life depends on it. Right. Like I used to have when I was starting, then I used to have a book for my interviews. Like when I'm going for interviews, I research, I write questions, I do everything. Like I had a whole book. Like I'll be going for an interview like this, and you see me with a book. I am reading, I'm taking public transport, I'm reading, like I'm preparing now. At the level I am now is a little bit more different. Like now, I can go into, if I have an interview, maybe a company invites me for an interview, I can go there without being prepared, right? I can just go in, like it's me that is interviewing the interviewer herself. Do you get? Because I'm like, at that point, like, your first job is always that job where you have to do a lot of that work, right? So, but after a while, you're like, okay, I have another work, oh, don't waste my time. Do you get what I'm saying? But like, be very committed to whatever it is you want to do. If it's this accounting thing you want to do, if it's audit, if it's FP&A, if it's investment banking, like do it with everything that you got. Like put all the things, put everything that you have, speak to everyone that you know. Don't leave anything out to chance. like Rhoda said, like your career is in your hands. Anything that happens to it is a product of whatever you make of it, right? So don't put anything to chance and just focus on your stuff. Okay. So again, I talk too much. If you need to reach out to me, please can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll try to.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So
Thank you.
all right, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Samson. Like, I'm sure if we leave you, we'll just turn to a video, but I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful for all the insights, and trust me, just like you said, Linda will be putting up the LinkedIn pages profile, so you can connect with him. Mr. Samson is actually he's somebody you can reach out to. He's very accessible on LinkedIn, so you can send him messages just in case you have further questions for him. He would be, yes, he's very open to listening to you and hearing your question. And also Rhoda here too. Linda would also be putting up the link to her LinkedIn profile. Rhoda is also a financial literacy trainer, expert. So if in case you're struggling to manage your salary, you're struggling to make the right financial decision, Rhoda is also an expert in that area. So you can reach out to her. In fact, just take out your time one day to go through her LinkedIn post. You'll see a lot of valuable information regarding personal finance and financial literacy. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. My heart is so full of joy, filled with joy. I am grateful you've stayed through all the way from 11 all the way from 11 a.m. to much. I'm grateful, and please, I want you to unmute your mic if you can, or just type in the chat box. Thank you so much, Mr. Samson. Thank you so much. If you know you really got value from the session, I want just type and say thank you so much. So we're going to be having this session on data analysis with Excel, and Mr. Toyiba has been on the call since 11 a.m. for a session that was scheduled for 1:15, but it's all right. I'll be 12:15 or thereabout. I can't even remember, but so he'll be coming up shortly. So thank you. Let your thank you call me. No, let your thank you call me. This is an opportunity. He talked about networking. Who knows if the next job you're going to get, if it's going to be through his relationship or through his connection. So please let your thank you be very loud so that people at the back can hear you, right? Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful. And you can take your thank you to LinkedIn. All the people that are scared, take your thank you to LinkedIn, tag him and say, oh, this is the session I attended. Trust me, there's going to be gifts for people that, that post this thing on LinkedIn. So you can just go to LinkedIn and say, oh, this is the insight I got from this session with Mr. Samson and Rhoda. And of course, we'll see, just once you tag it, you can tag me or mention me, I'll see it, and we have amazing prizes for you. So for this Excel class, we're moving to the next session. We'll just take me, I have been sitting, listening, and some of us are like dehydrated. We need to take water, we need to play light music for 2 minutes so that our facilitator, Mr. Toyib, can take this stage, right? So I just want you to stretch. It's not good to sit down for too long. That is what medical people would say. You need to like exercise, you need to be sure that your hands are still like blood, move your body, and by 1:30 on the dot, yes, Mr. Toyib will be taking up this stage. So I'll just play some song, and I want us to relax basically before we go to the next session. This is my favorite song right now. I don't know if can you hear the song? If you can hear the song, just let me know. Can you hear the sound?
I'm the best my generation ever seen. I kept studying the every lecture party. I never been, I never meet. I've been smarting, I'm making in everything. From me get that to go to a lecture. To the many places that I've never been. Remember this, I'm a king. I'm a legend, they're making, I'm a champion.
I need patience and time, and I'll be reclining my design. I've been grinding for my needs. But with to give my nephew, put them diamonds on my knees, shining so dope that I purchased 88 keys for mama to play the song and call my 88 street. With this baby face, I ain't get him really hate me. Get him barely, it's love. Wasted every occasion, I'm very evasive when they hating what they see. Maybe a nation, then they crown me as their king. Bill rings and then my hands are raised. MGM Grand Mandalay. Him now while my victory has just begun. When you see me, just know you looking at a motherfucking champion. I'm a king. I'm a nugget, I'm the average boy from the average street with an empty pocket and a bag of dreams.
So welcome back, everyone. It's exactly 1:30, and yes, we can continue. So I'll just briefly bring up our next facilitator. It's going to be a very brief session, and trust me, you're going to learn a lot. I'm happy that we're recording the session and we're going to make it available to the participants. So I'm going to be sharing my screen as I introduce Mr. Toib. Mr. Toib is a senior colleague. He is somebody that is highly sought after in the field of accounting. So I'll just share my screen now so that he can come up. Trying to look for how to, okay.